Greetings, YouTube. This is the Garage Autonomist. I haven't died. The channel's fine and everything. It's just that I cannot take off at all, it seems. Like, I took off for 2 weeks for the holidays, and because I flew my niece up here so she could hang out with us, I come back to a fucking hole that I need to crawl out of because the people who I work with, who work with me, rather, they, the world fucking stops as soon as I'm gone. And it's like, what the fuck? So, everybody wants to play dumb. And anyway, I'm not going to get into all that later for those assholes. Anyway, here's the deal. I have a couple of subjects that I want to talk about, and I'm going to do it in ramble style. I normally don't do that, but I wanted to go ahead, throw this communique out to you guys, and give a huge shout out to all the people who've been doing videos in the last, over the holidays, really good ones. Jenny Kiss, New Possibilities, as always, and X. I've decided that I need to interview her and have her on. I also said, and I'm pretty sure I've said this before, that I need to return the favor and have New Possibilities on this channel, as he has had me on last spring. I don't want to say I was intimidated. It's just, the thing about New Possibilities is that he's not the other pro-blacks. He's not like these other people on YouTube. I know the distinct language that this brother speaks. He speaks the language of a community organizer. So I want to make the interview and the show really fucking good. I want to make sure that I'm not giving him a softball show where we're just literally going to be sitting here going, I agree. I know that we don't agree on everything, of course. I just wanted to be like fucking Mark Steiner good. I wanted to be fucking NPR good. You know what I'm saying? So I've been sitting around thinking about what kind of questions to ask him. It's almost a year later, which is really pathetic. So I'll be getting to that later. This is the first thing I want to talk about. Is this a Marxist channel? I don't think that anyone's really asked me that. Sometimes I see people who are obviously distinctly leftist or socialist. They subscribe to this channel, and then maybe a day later they unsubscribe. I'm not sure if that is because maybe they come here looking for something else. Maybe they don't. I've got people who are straight up manispherians, MRAs, True Force Loneliness dude, people who I've actually trolled or have subscribed to me and have remained subscribed to me. And I guess the thing is, and it kind of reminds me of a conversation that I had years ago when I was an activist, and it was with former comrades. I think I was trying to explain why their organization, why they appealed to me more. I couldn't put my finger on it. And they said, well, we see you as a man of action, as corny as that sounds. And they were like, you're a community organizer, you are a worker. At that time, I was a cook. That's exactly what we're aspiring to be. That's exactly what we're aspiring to see come out of the working class, are people who are organizers and at the same time politically elevated or educated towards revolutionary politics. And then he said, because we would rather be this than some Marxist fan club or a debate club of Marxists that are all made up of stodgy old white guys. And when they said that, I was like, okay, that really put everything in perspective. I am definitely a left communist. I am definitely a libertarian socialist, or all the other little variants of those words are the same goddamn thing anyway. I am those things. The thing is, however, is that my approach or talking about it is never going to go into classic Marxism. It does not mean that Marxist theories, for the most part, are not relevant or anything. It's just not everything applies anymore like it used to, like Marxist theories do in terms of the trends and the things that have changed over the years. And secondly, this is still a channel where I'm expressing myself in many different ways and even artistically. So if you really come here for a place where I'm sitting here reading the page 200 out of Karl Marx's Capital, then please move on. And I'm not trying to be a dick about it. It's just there are plenty of other channels like that, and they deal with that kinds of stuff, but that's not happening here. The thing about the working class is that it's not all male and it's not all white. As a matter of fact, I have a link in the low bar from City Lab that goes into a breakdown of the changing face of the labor force, plus even the changing definition of what is really the labor force. And if you had to personify the working class today as a person, she would be brown and a woman. That does not mean that white people aren't in the working class. It does not mean males of all nationalities are not in the working class. But in terms of the rising numbers and the different and who makes up the labor force now, it is mainly women. It is mainly women of color and people of color. And on a global scale, it even increases more. Thing is that that is why I will talk about police brutality, and I will talk about gender politics, and I will talk about immigration and things of that nature, because that is the class struggle. Okay. So it doesn't just mean a certain group of people. That's really all I got to say about that. All right, next, I'm going to talk about something that a lot of you all really won't agree with me, and that's fine. Comment section is open for that, and I would be more than happy to do a hangout if anyone wants to, debate with me on that or whatever. But I got to side with Ginuwine on this, him not kissing a transgender woman. Now, I will say this. I have not gone as far on this story in terms of reading about it to know if Ginuwine has actually said transphobic things. Maybe he has, and maybe he is indeed a transphobe in terms of how he sees trans women and what he has done. Maybe he's misgendered them, things like that. And yes, all of that is transphobic, but him kissing someone, or choosing not to anyway, has nothing to do with him being a hateful person, in my opinion. I wouldn't kiss a woman that I don't know, whether if I was single or married, and I don't, even if I find her attractive, I just wouldn't do it. And yeah, I will go ahead and say this. I would never kiss a dude because I don't want to kiss dudes. I just don't have that desire. I'm just not wired that way. On that basis alone, Ginuwine is not a bad guy here. And I think this idea, if anything, that he should be kissing someone because they desire that, or because it will make them feel good or prove something, that attitude, in my opinion, is very male. The way I see that, only one social class in our society has that sense of entitlement, that someone should be kissing them regardless if that person doesn't want to or not, but based on that person's desire that they should be kissed. But I only see men pulling that shit. So there you go. Now, during the break, I just basically enjoyed a lot of things on YouTube. There's an awesome documentary that's literally only 13 minutes long. The link is going to be in the low bar that deals with my hometown of Kansas City, Missouri. And in this documentary, it's really good. A great deal of history. I mean, these dudes go all the way back to Africa, go into slavery, go into Jim Crow era as African Americans were trying to get the hell out of the South and up north or into the Midwest where black people felt that they would get a better shake in society. They cover all of that, again, only in just 13 minutes, to talk about Troost Avenue being the actual dividing line of race and class. Now, as a kid, I've always known about Troost. You hear it all the time. It's a major street. It's a major, is it an avenue or a street? I forgot. Anyone wants to correct me, they can. When I was a kid, I never thought about it. I never saw it. I never knew it or understood it as that being the wall. The two geniuses that come out of Kansas City, of course, there's Walt Disney, and then I had never even heard of this man's name, J.C. Nichols. And he was the developer, or rather the architect of Kansas City, Missouri. So all the things that I definitely remember as a kid in terms of all the different fountains that were there. He was inspired by a lot of the architecture and city planning of some cities in Spain. But he was also the architect of the race and class line of the city, because everything west of Troost Avenue is mainly white and rich. And then, of course, further west would then be mostly white, but then working class or middle income. And, he lived on what was called Millionaire's Row. Anyway, it was a good documentary. I have the link in the low bar. And the piece was called Building the Truth Wall, Structural Racism in Kansas City. And it was done by Michael Wesch, or Mike Wesch. Some people have described him as a cultural anthropologist or a digital anthropologist. And the link to his website is also in the low bar. But like I said, great documentary, only 13 and some change long. And it's called Building the Truth Wall. So the link is in the low bar to that. Mike Wesch's work.
What do you think when you hear the word skinhead? Violence? Intolerance? Hatred? This image was born in the 1970s, when this youth-driven subculture earned a reputation for trouble on the streets and terraces, and a toxic association with racism. But that's not how it started, and it's certainly not what it meant to me.
Skinhead was always a multicultural thing. Skinhead was born of a mixed marriage between Jamaican culture and white working class London culture.
Skinheads are one of the most enduring, one of the most striking, and for me, interesting, because they contain that contradiction of liking one thing, but sometimes having differing views.
I was born in 1956 and reached my teens on this very estate in Stockwell, South London. Back then, like most working class kids, I used the only two things at my disposal to create my identity: music and clothes. And in those days, round these parts, it was all about Skinhead. The arrival of my parents with the Windrush generation after the Second World War that would play a crucial part in this particular story. Because along with their hopes and dreams, they also brought style and some brand new sounds.
Another good documentary, now this one is actually about 56 minutes long, deals with the original Skinheads. Now, I've known this since I was a teenager. Again, it's one of my favorite filmmakers, is a guy by the name of Don Lett. I like to call him basically the godfather of Afropunk, because that's exactly what he was. He was one of the first black punk rockers, but in Britain. But see, he goes into his own story in this, but he was a part of what was really the Skinheads. And the Skinheads are basically the second wave of youth culture after the whole mods and rockers thing in Britain. And he and a few other people, you might even recognize, what's his name, Michael Rowland from Dexy's Midnight Runners. He's actually in this documentary. But Don Letts, he was the one who made the first documentary about the British punk wave called Punk. And then he later on joined Big Audio Dynamite, which was the band that Mick Jones from The Clash started after they broke up. But yeah, he went on to do many other movies and documentaries. Dancehall Queen was a pretty good film, if you ever seen that one. You know, that covers the dancehall scene, but it was pretty good. Don Letts is a really good filmmaker. You should check that one out. So there's always really cool things to find here on YouTube. So that's really all I got to say, y'all. Like I said, a ramble, but I just wanted to let you all know where I've been, what's been going on. All right, YouTube, this is the Garage Autonomist. Peace.